I had no idea that on the morning of my wedding my parents would show up dressed in black, that my mother would ask for a house for my sister in front of everyone, but the moment my husband put that secret up on the screen, the color drained from their faces and they ran out of the hall. "Why are you both wearing black?" I asked, standing near the door. It was the morning of my wedding. I had just put on my dress and looked at myself in the mirror, and as soon as I stepped out of the bridal suite, my parents were standing there in front of me. In black clothes. Like they were attending a funeral. My mom looked straight at me and said, "We need to talk to you. Now." I said, "Mom, now? Guests are starting to arrive." Dad said in a cold voice, "This is important." I thought maybe there was some kind of emergency. I led them to a corner of the hallway and said, "What's going on?" Mom said it plainly. "We think that the new house you two are buying after the wedding should be put in your sister's name. If you've ever been blindsided by the people who were supposed to love you most, stay with me, and subscribe to follow what happened next. You won't believe how this ends." Actually laughed. "Are you kidding me?" She didn't smile. "You both have good jobs. She's alone. She needs it more." "Mom, it's my wedding day. You're bringing this up today." Dad said, "This needs to be clear in front of everyone. We've already talked to your sister." I stared at him. "You talked to her before talking to me?" "She deserves stability," Mom said. "You've always been lucky." I didn't say anything after that. I just looked at them. I could hear music from outside. People laughing. And my parents were standing there in black like they were mourning the day. When the ceremony started, they were sitting in the first row. Still in black. People were whispering. My mother-in-law leaned over and quietly asked, "Is everything okay?" I said, "No idea." After the ceremony, everyone gathered in the reception hall. Toast started. I thought maybe the conversation from the morning was over. I was wrong. After dinner, my mom grabbed the mic. She didn't ask anyone. "I want to say something," she said. The entire hall went silent. I was standing there frozen. My husband Ethan squeezed my hand. Mom said, "We pray for our older daughter's happiness, but we hope she doesn't forget her sister in her joy. The truth is, the house whose down payment we helped with should really be for our younger daughter's future." An awkward silence filled the room. I said softly, "Mom, stop." She said, "No, let me finish. We think it's only fair that the house be transferred to her. She has nothing." My sister Lauren was sitting at another table. She lowered her eyes, but there was a strange confidence on her face. Ethan stepped forward and took the mic. "I think that's enough." Dad stood up and said, "We supported you. The least you can do is support family." I grabbed the mic. "Supported me? You mean the loan I'm paying back every single month?" Guests were looking at each other. No one knew where to look. Lauren suddenly said, "You've always had everything. Good grades, good job, perfect life. Why can't you just do this one thing?" I looked at her. "So you knew?" She said, "Of course I knew." That's when Ethan signaled the DJ. The large screen behind us, the one set up for our wedding slideshow, lit up. Ethan said calmly, "Since we're talking about fairness, maybe everyone should see the full picture." Bank statements appeared on the screen. Emails. Text messages. One message from Lauren read, "If we pressure her on the wedding day, she won't say no." Another message from Mom said, "Wear black. It will send a message." You could hear people gasp. Dad shouted, "Turn that off." Ethan said evenly, "No." Then the contract appeared on the screen, clearly stating that Ethan and I had paid the entire down payment. There was zero contribution from my parents. In fact, in one email Dad had written to Lauren, "We'll tell people we helped. It makes us look good." I looked at my mom. The color had drained from her face. Lauren yelled, "You had no right to read my messages." Ethan replied, "You sent them in the shared family thread. Remember." Complete silence. I took the mic again. "You planned this. On my wedding day." Mom said, "We were just trying to help your sister." "By humiliating me?" Dad looked around at the guests. Everyone was clearly uncomfortable. Ethan clicked to the final slide. A voicemail recording played. My mom's voice filled the room. "If she refuses, we'll tell everyone she's selfish. No one wants a selfish bride." The silence after that felt heavy. I said, "We're done here." Mom tried to grab my hand. "Sweetheart." I pulled my hand back. "Don't." Lauren pushed her chair back. Let's go. Dad walked toward the exit without looking at anyone. Mom and Lauren followed him. All three of them in black. Like it really was a funeral. They rushed out of the hall. The reception slowly started back up again. It was awkward at first, but people stayed. Ethan's mom came up to me and said, "I'm proud of you." I just nodded. This didn't come out of nowhere. Lauren used to say all the time, "You're mom's favorite." I'd say, "No, I'm not." She'd say, "You get the praise. I get the leftovers." In high school, she'd comment on my prom dress. "Must be nice to afford that." In college, Mom would say, "Lauren struggles more. Be patient with her." When I announced my engagement, Lauren said, "Wow. Another win for you." I laughed and said, "It's not a competition." She replied, "For you maybe not." Last Thanksgiving, Mom casually said, "If anything ever happens, you take care of your sister, right?" I said, "Of course, within reason." Dad added, "Family comes first." At the time, I didn't think that meant public pressure on my wedding day. A week before the wedding, Ethan told me, "Something feels off. Your mom asked weird questions about the house." I said, "She's just being her." I was wrong. The truth is, the revenge part was Ethan's idea. When I found out Lauren had sent those messages in the group chat, I said, "I'm not fighting on my wedding day." Ethan looked at me and said, "You're not." "I am." He quietly saved screenshots. Downloaded the voicemail. He even confirmed with a lawyer friend what our options were if they tried to publicly defame us. I told him, "I don't want drama." He said, "They're already bringing it." That morning, when my parents showed up in black, Ethan leaned in and said, "Trust me." I did. After the reception, we didn't call them. They didn't call us. 2 days later, Mom texted, "You embarrassed us." I replied, "You tried to ruin my wedding." Lauren texted, "You could have handled it privately." I wrote back, "You didn't." Dad left a voicemail, "Family doesn't do this to each other." I deleted it. We completed the house closing quietly. The title is in our names only. No arguments. No debates. That year we spent Thanksgiving with Ethan's parents. Simple dinner. No drama. Sometimes I think, could I have handled it differently? Maybe. But the truth is, if we had stayed silent that day, that story would have followed me forever. Selfish bride. Ungrateful daughter. Now the story is different. When people remember our wedding, they say, "That was bold." A few months later, my parents switched churches. I heard Lauren moved somewhere else. We're not in contact. I don't miss them. It took me a while to admit that, but it's true. On the morning of my wedding, I thought the black outfits were just bad taste. I didn't know they were part of a plan. But I do know this. After that day, no one gets to control me with guilt. If someone uses the word family to pressure you, that's not love. And if someone turns your wedding into a battlefield, you defend yourself. We did. And when the three of them walked out of that hall in black, for the first time I realized they might actually have been mourning something. Control. If this story moved you, shocked you, or reminded you of something in your own life, please take a moment to like and subscribe. Your support truly means more than you know. Thank you for reading, for feeling this with me, and for being part of this journey.